In a quiet room, voices rise. Everyone argues, explains, pushes. Nothing changes. Then one person reaches for the light switch, not to turn it off, but to angle it slightly. The room settles. Attention shifts. The conversation moves without effort. Control rarely comes from force or volume. It comes from adjusting something small that everyone else ignores, and letting the effect speak on your behalf. Most people believe control is something you assert when things start slipping. They think it shows up through urgency, dominance, or clever words at the right moment. The truth is colder and simpler. There is a single rule that decides how situations bend long before anyone notices the shift. Learn it once, and chaos becomes predictable. Miss it, and even good intentions quietly work against you. If there were one principle that lets you stay calm while others rush, see outcomes before they form, and guide events without appearing to interfere, would it be worth a few minutes of attention? You do not need motivation, confidence, or charisma for this. Only patience, observation, and a willingness to notice what most people step over while they hurry to be heard. Consider this quietly. You have already seen moments where pressure failed and restraint won. You felt it, then dismissed it. All that is required now is a small agreement with yourself to observe before acting, to listen for structure instead of noise, and to let outcomes reveal themselves. Nothing dramatic will happen at first. That is the point. Control begins invisibly, settles internally, and only later becomes obvious to everyone else in the room. Stay with that idea long enough for it to feel slightly uncomfortable, and you will notice your attention sharpen, your reactions slow, and situations start aligning without resistance over time naturally now. 5 centuries ago, power was studied without comfort. In Florence, alliances shifted by the week, reputations collapsed overnight, and survival depended on reading rooms faster than reading laws. Machiavelli watched leaders lose everything not because they were weak, but because they acted at the wrong level of the situation. He wrote 4 men surrounded by danger, not theory. The lesson that survived wars, courts, and empires was not about force. It was about perception. Those who shaped the conditions of action ruled quietly, while those who reacted to events exhausted themselves, explaining, demanding, and correcting after the damage was done. History keeps repeating this pattern, even when the setting looks modern. The rule is simple and unforgiving. Whoever controls the frame controls the outcome, not the argument, not the emotion. The frame decides what matters, what feels urgent, and what options appear reasonable before anyone speaks. Once the frame is set, most decisions feel voluntary, even when they are guided. Miss the frame, and effort multiplies with diminishing returns. See it early, and resistance dissolves before it forms. This changes how ordinary situations work. If the frame determines outcomes, then reacting passionately is already a loss. Explaining harder means the frame belongs to someone else. Rushing to be understood means the terms were never yours. The fastest way to gain leverage is not to speak first, but to notice what assumption everyone else is standing on. Shift that, and behavior follows without pressure. Think of a meeting, a disagreement, a negotiation. The moment you stop trying to win inside the situation and instead adjust what the situation means, control stops feeling aggressive and starts feeling inevitable. Most people never see this, because it happens before action, not during it. Picture the last time tension rose, and you felt the urge to correct, clarify, or defend. That urge signals the frame is already set against you. Control would have arrived earlier, in silence, by shaping expectations before emotion entered. This is why calm people seem powerful. They are not suppressing reaction. They are operating upstream. When you learn to work at that level, you stop fighting behavior and start guiding meaning. Situations become lighter, not heavier. People cooperate without realizing why, and you no longer need to prove strength, because the structure does the work for you. This perspective quietly rewires how you enter conversations, conflicts, and decisions, because you begin earlier than everyone else, where outcomes are still flexible and mistakes are cheap. From there, control feels natural, almost invisible, and pressure loses its grip before it ever announces itself. You are no longer reacting inside moments. You are quietly arranging the moments themselves before anyone else notices. Control rarely looks like control. It begins with deciding what is seen and what remains off stage. When you choose what to reveal, you decide the ceiling of other people's reactions. When you choose what to obscure, you protect leverage. When you choose the sequence, you guide interpretation. Imagine a simple workplace update. One person shares every detail at once and invites debate. Another shares only the outcome, then waits. The room responds differently. Visibility shapes importance before opinions form. Most people overshare because they believe transparency creates trust. In reality, clarity creates trust, and clarity is selective. Revealing less does not mean hiding truth. It means releasing information in a way that frames meaning. A pause between facts lets others assume structure. A delayed detail changes how earlier information is judged. Sequence quietly edits reality. Picture a disagreement. Instead of defending yourself, you acknowledge one point, then introduce a new angle later. The conflict softens, not because you argued well, but because you controlled exposure. Influence grows when you stop flooding the room and start curating it. The uncomfortable truth is simple. Whoever decides what appears, and when, shapes what people think they decided on their own. All outcomes follow. Timing is the silent instrument most people never practice. They speak too early, fill pauses, rush conclusions. Strategic control uses delay the way a musician uses silence. Pause once to observe. Pause twice to let others reveal priorities. Then move. In conversation, the first pause absorbs emotion. The second creates anticipation. The third establishes authority without force. Consider a meeting where tension rises. One voice jumps in immediately and escalates. Another waits, lets the noise peak, then speaks briefly. That voice lands heavier, not louder. Acceleration has its place, but only after stillness. When you speak fast before others settle, you feed chaos. When you slow after others rush, you reset the tempo. A simple pattern trains this skill. Listen fully. Count 3 silently before responding. Speak one clear sentence. Stop. Let it land. If pressure returns, shorten your reply further. This is not withdrawal. It is pacing. Over time, people unconsciously match your cadence. The uncomfortable truth is that impatience signals loss of control. Precision timing signals command, even when your words are few. Silence, used deliberately, bends attention, drains urgency, and creates space where decisions feel calm, voluntary, and strangely obvious to everyone present without visible effort applied. Emotional control is not suppression. It is accounting. Think of every interaction as an emotional ledger. Attention, warmth, and intensity are currencies. Spend them deliberately or you go into debt. The first rule is simple. Never invest more emotion than the situation can return. The second is quieter. Withdraw emotion the moment it stops producing clarity. Imagine giving enthusiasm to someone who responds with confusion or resistance. The ledger turns negative. Detachment is not coldness here. It is adjustment. You remain present, but you lower intensity. Your tone steadies. Your reactions shorten. This recalibration often invites cooperation because it removes pressure others feel but cannot name. The voice that practices this sounds calm and slightly distant, never urgent. It listens more than it reacts. When emotion is useful, it is applied briefly, then released. When emotion clouds outcomes, it is paused without apology. The uncomfortable truth is that uncontrolled emotion teaches others how to treat you. Calibrated emotion teaches them where the boundaries are. Master this ledger, and you stay human without becoming predictable. You choose when to engage fully and when to step back, preserving leverage while keeping relationships intact. This balance strengthens authority quietly over time for you. Most mistakes come from confusing restraint with absence. One trap looks like silence, but is actually avoidance. You withhold, say little, and call it control, yet the situation drifts because no frame was ever set. Quiet without structure feels empty, not authoritative. Another trap is excessive mystery. You obscure everything, reveal nothing, and believe opacity equals power. It doesn't. People fill the gap with their own stories, and those stories rarely favor you. Control is selective, not absent. When nothing is guided, influence leaks away. The uncomfortable truth is that doing less only works when what you do carries intention. Mastery sounds calm, but it still moves the board. If nothing shifts after your restraint, it was not strategy. It was hesitation disguised as wisdom. And hesitation teaches others to lead, while you wait for conditions that never arrive. Power requires direction, even when expressed softly, with clear intent always. When control slips, speed matters. The first repair is framing aloud. Say, calmly, let's step back and clarify what actually matters here. This halts momentum without confrontation. The second repair is narrowing. Say, we only need to decide one thing right now. Complexity collapses, pressure drops, and direction returns. Before either line, reset your body. Inhale slowly through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 2. Exhale through the mouth for 6. Then speak once, briefly, and stop. If challenged, repeat the frame, not the argument. Control is not regained by explaining more, but by reducing scope. The uncomfortable truth is that recovery depends less on clever words and more on restoring calm structure faster than others can react. This pause signals authority without aggression and gives you time to choose the next move deliberately. Most situations soften once pace is reclaimed before emotions. Harden again into fixed positions quickly. Strategy without self-checks decays into manipulation. Before acting, ask 3 quiet questions. Is this shaping clarity or just protecting my ego? Will this action reduce future friction or create hidden resentment? Am I willing to accept the outcome if the roles were reversed? If any answer tightens your chest, pause. There is a clean exit that preserves leverage. Say, Let's leave this here for now and return with clearer ground, then step back. Control that costs, integrity erodes long-term power. Control aligned with values compounds. The uncomfortable truth is that the strongest position is one you can occupy repeatedly without needing to justify it to yourself. These questions are not moral decoration. They are structural. They prevent short victories from poisoning future interactions. When alignment is lost, even success feels unstable and invites retaliation later. Leaving early is sometimes the highest form of control with dignity over time consistently. 3 people sat around a small table late in the afternoon. The tension was familiar. A deadline had been missed, and blame hovered without a name. The first person spoke quickly, listing reasons and defending intent. The second pushed back, sharper, louder, tightening the air. The third stayed quiet, eyes down, listening longer than felt comfortable. When the noise peaked, the third person spoke once, not to defend, but to restate the goal everyone had agreed on weeks earlier. The room slowed. Voices dropped. Attention shifted from fault to outcome. That was the first move. A few minutes later, a new proposal appeared, not framed as a solution, but as a question. It was incomplete on purpose. The others filled the gaps themselves, softening their own resistance. That was the second move. At the end, when agreement finally formed, the third person did something unexpected. They took responsibility for a small part of the delay that was not fully theirs. The gesture ended the conversation. No one argued. Trust settled quietly. The decision stood. Nothing dramatic happened. No dominance, no persuasion. Control arrived through timing, framing, and selective exposure. The situation bent without force. Anyone watching would say was natural. To moments mattered most. First, the decision to restate the shared goal instead of defending position. That single sentence shifted the frame from blame to direction. It reminded everyone what the situation was actually about. Second, the choice to present the idea as a question, not a conclusion. Questions invite ownership. Statements invite resistance. Notice the restraint in language. No emphasis, no urgency, no correction. The pauses did more than the words. You can replicate this by preparing one neutral sentence that names the goal, then one open question that invites completion. Say less than feels necessary, then stop. The silence that follows reveals where the real leverage sits, and who is already moving in your direction at that moment. There is a cost to this approach. When you guide frames, you may carry responsibility without visible credit. Others feel the wind more than you do. The habit that balances this is quiet review. After each situation, note whether the outcome stayed aligned with your values. If it did, let recognition go. The rule works long-term only when you can apply it repeatedly without resentment. Because leverage that depends on ego always collapses eventually under pressure over time consistently. Remember this sentence. Control the frame before the moment demands action. Control the frame before the moment demands action. 3 words anchor it. Before, not during. When pressure rises, most people rush inward, searching for better arguments or stronger emotion. This sentence pulls you outward instead. It reminds you that outcomes are decided earlier, quietly, when assumptions form and expectations settle. Hold it like a tool, not a belief. Repeat it until it feels plain. Under stress, simplicity survives. If you can recall this line, you will pause automatically. And that pause is where leverage still exists for you now. Each morning, take 2 minutes before the day speaks to you. Picture one interaction ahead. Do not imagine winning. Imagine noticing. Ask yourself what the frame might be and how it could be set with less effort. Then stop. In the evening, write one line answering a single question. Where did I react instead of shape? No judgment, no correction, just observation. Within days, patterns appear. You will start sensing moments earlier than before. The practice works because it trains awareness, not behavior. Awareness changes behavior on its own quietly, steadily, without forcing results or chasing validation later at all. Imagine leaving a room without needing to look back. The conversation continues, but it no longer pulls at you. You did not win. You arranged conditions. Outside, the air feels lighter. This is how control should feel. Quiet, internal, repeatable. Carry the rule with you, not as armor, but as alignment. Let others hurry. You will notice earlier, speak later, and move less. Over time, people will say situations feel calmer around you. They will not know why. You will. That knowledge is enough. Pause there, and let the silence finish the lesson for you today, now, and always ahead.